Welcome to The Becks, a podcast that explores multimedia horror with hosts Becky and Sydney. Join us as we talk about movies, books, video games, music, and much, much more.
Thank you for joining us. My name is Sydney Rebecca.
And I'm Rebecca Snow.
And we're the Becks. What are we talking about today, Becky?
Ooh, we are talking about a scary, freaking movie, The Strangers. It's right now streaming on Netflix, so you can watch it for free. It's terrifying.
As long as you have Netflix, that is.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, she's correct. As long as you have Netflix. Because you can't share your password anymore, so can't even get it if you... Anyway. So, The Strangers. It stars Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman is the lead actor.
I didn't recognize him from anything.
I didn't either. I tried to look it up and I didn't see anything. But it's terrifying. So I actually was looking for scary movies, found it, watched it, and told Sydney that she really needed to watch it. So I'm curious to hear her commentary on this because I know how I feel and I've got lots of notes. Yes, that's right, people. I have notes.
I made notes too. My notes are not very organized because I was kind of just jotting down a running commentary as the movie was going on. The first note I have, this is funny. There's like an opening scrawl that talks about how the movie is based on a true story. It's about this couple whose home gets invaded. It's a home invasion movie. And they get murdered horribly. They die terribly. And nobody really knows like the real story of what exactly happened. But the opening scroll talks about how they were coming back to their summer home where they got murdered. My first note is summer home, LOL, fuck rich people, though.
Wow.
So, okay, one thing I want to mention, it's really funny. I feel like this was like divine intervention or just like perfect timing or whatever, because one of our most avid and beautiful listeners that we have named Dawn, that was one of the movies that she recommended us cover when Becky made a Facebook post asking people, you know, hey, what's your favorite scary movie, book, whatever, and The Strangers was on her list. So it's kind of perfect that Becky ended up watching this.
Yeah,
before,
I watched it. Yeah, just about a week before.
Before she made the post, and then it was like, okay, so we definitely need to talk about it. So Liv Tyler, she's probably the most beautiful woman in existence. I love her so much.
Me too.
I know her from Lord of the Rings, mostly. My parents were big Lord of the Rings nerds, and I'm a big Lord of the Rings nerd. You don't like Lord of the Rings, do you, Becky?
No, I don't have a problem with Lord of the Rings. I'm not a huge nerd. I've watched them. My brother read all the books, so I had to hear all those stories. But, no, I love Liv Tyler just because she's amazing and she's beautiful and she can take any part that she has and make it her own, it seems.
Yeah.
And, of course, I like her. Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. Yeah, you know, grew up in the late 70s and 80s,
I always forget about that connection. That's not
see,
something that I think of automatically. She didn't inherit his big mouth.
She did not. She does resemble her dad a little bit, but she's very good looking, and Steven Tyler is, you know, older now, so, but he's sexy and can sing like, Anyway, we're getting off the subject here. We're not talking about Steven Tyler and Aerosmith. This is about Liv Tyler and The Strangers.
And her boyfriend.
Yes. James is the character's name. Yes.
James is her boyfriend.
Scott Speedman, and she was Kristen in the movie.
Kristen, yes.
And the movie was written and directed by Brian Bertino. He's an American filmmaker.
Did he make anything else that was... that became popular?
I don't know that there is anything that became popular. There is, however, a sequel to The Strangers, which is called The Strangers Pray at Night. We'll talk about that. Pray as in P-R-E-Y. Pray.
Right.
Yes. And I don't really know anything else. I didn't see anything that popped up that I actually, was like, oh, okay, I know that. Apparently there was a movie in 2020 called The Dark and the Wicked, so that might be something that we have to look into too.
That he did as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can check it out, make sure he wasn't like a one-hit wonder or whatever. Okay, so it opens up the opening scene of this movie is these two boys' bikes, and they are, I don't know if they're like Mormon? That was like my...
I think that's the impression I got, is that they were Mormon.
Yeah, something similar, but they're going...
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
They were going from, it seemed, house to house, delivering pamphlets. Yeah.
And they come across this house, and the door is open, and there's broken glass and blood, and they find bodies, and they call 911. And what I find really funny is that, I don't know, this is probably just a dramatization that they do in Hollywood, but whenever people call 911, the 911 operator is always like, calm down. And it's like, what do you mean?
You've never listened to any 911 calls like on TikTok or anything like that?
No, I find
no, there are some where they literally say, okay, you need to calm down. I can't understand you. Okay, you need to stay calm. Sometimes I get very angry. I mean, I understand that's their job, and shout out to every first responder, every 911 operator out there. They have a job that I know I couldn't do, but sometimes I think they need to
find a different phrase
approach.
To use.
Yeah, because telling a hysterical person that is in the middle of an emergency to calm down just makes it worse. Yeah, at least for me it does. I don't like being told to calm down when I'm upset.
I don't think any person does.
Yeah.
Every woman has gone through someone telling them to calm down when they're angry, and we all know how much we love that, so. But that was just one of my notes that I made, was it's just, I feel like they say that every time, like, oh, just calm down. It's like, there's blood everywhere, people are dying or dead. What do you mean? So, one of my favorite parts of this movie is the use of the record player.
Yeah, I looked up the one song. I used Shazam to find out what it was.
Oh, yeah.
Because so the premise of the movie is it's this couple that have been at a wedding, and they come back to their summer home to spend the night after the wedding, and he actually had planned, he asked her to marry him. Didn't plan it, he actually did. And she said no, she wasn't ready. So they were arguing. There was a lot of conflict between them. He was very hurt. She was hurt too. She just wasn't ready. Lots of that. So you're dealing with that internal conflict between the two of them when they get back to this place. Kind of have to have that background to understand what's going on in the movie. So it's like 4 a.m. She's still in her dress because she said it made her feel pretty to be in the dress from the wedding. And there's a knock on their door at 4 a.m. in the middle of the woods. We're talking like rural area, woods. They're out in the middle of nowhere. And being a northern Michigan girl, that's my life. That's Sydney's life. We pretty much live in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is all too familiar. But they answer the door. They just open the door.
At 4 o'clock in the morning.
At 4 in the morning. And there's this random woman standing there. And she looks at him and says, "Is Tamara home?" And of course they tell her she has the wrong house. And she says, "Are you sure?" They still continue to talk to her. And then they shut the door. So then Liv Tyler's character, Kristen, realizes she's out of cigarettes. So instead of waiting till the morning or when they leave or whatever, her boyfriend says, "I'll go get you some." Literally minutes after this strange woman comes to their door, her boyfriend just hops in the car and leaves her alone. And that, to me, that's like my first, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You just, some random fucking woman comes to your door at 4 a.m. and you're like, okay, I'm going to leave my girlfriend alone here in the middle of the woods where we're not from and go get her cigarettes. Because, that's the important thing right now. I was dumbfounded.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to the record player. This is where I was leading. So when he leaves, she plays this song that's called Sprout and the Bean. And we will, if I can find a copy of it or something online, I'm going to have Sydney post it on our Facebook. Because it's creepy. if you listen to the words, the one line was, should we go outside? And I'm like, no, you shouldn't fucking go outside. Please don't go outside. But it's just a really creepy voice. I don't know if you noticed that.
No,
in
it
that
is
scene
creepy.
when she was alone. Yeah. So yeah. So that's my first instance with the record player when I was like, oh man, shut that freaking thing off right now. But I'll let Sydney tell you why she liked it now.
So they use it as a really good point of tension because when in that opening scene when the boys come into the house, the record player is still trying to play, but it's at the end of it,
doing
right?
Skipping, let it
yeah,
die.
so it's just going psst, psst, psst,
Yeah.
because nobody started it over.
Yeah.
So every time they start the record over or put on a different record, you're like, okay, is this when stuff is going to go down?
Mm-hmm.
Like either it happens when the song is playing or, it happens when the song ends and they don't have time to, like, they're too busy getting murdered to change it, So it's just a really good, and every time the record restarts, it's like, it amps it up. Like, it's like, okay, maybe it's going to be now, or it's going to be now, or it's going to be now.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was ingenious. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I didn't either. I really appreciated that in the movie, too. And that song that I was saying is Sprout and the Bean by Joanna Newsom. I wish I could pull it up and just play you a little bit right now, because it's creepy. It is so creepy. Maybe I will. Let me look while Sydney talks.
I have a note here, because James, dragged Kristen out of the wedding. She wanted to dance with him, and he's like, we can dance out here. And that's when he proposed. Mm-hmm. I just want to note, it is gross to propose at someone else's wedding.
I think so, too.
I know that he, left. It wasn't like he made it into, a public event or whatever, but just stop. He should have just waited until they were back at the house. Because he had this whole romantic thing planned. He had rose petals and a bath and champagne and, all this stuff. Propose when you get in the door or, right before you get in the door and then, sweep her off her feet, go over the threshold. James is kind of an idiot. He makes some freaking...
He left her alone.
Questionable decisions.
Go get cigarettes. And then he lights her a fire. Okay, he lights her a fire before he leaves. And he doesn't open the flue.
I haven't known about that, too.
I was like, what the hell is he doing? So not only does he leave her alone with some random weirdo wandering around outside, because they literally didn't know where she went, he starts a fire and doesn't open the flue. So the record player's playing. She's seeing people outside because after he leaves, almost immediately after he leaves, she's standing there and all you hear is just someone randomly knocking on the door again. And what does she do? What does she do, Sydney?
She doesn't open the door.
No.
She talks to him through the door.
She does. Hello? I wouldn't talk in her cute little Liv Tyler voice.
Yeah.
Hello? I wouldn't say hello again. And then the girl says, is Tamara home? Are you flipping kidding me right now?
No, if it was me, home alone, I would be like, so they'd be like, is Tamara home? I'd be like, no, fuck off. It's 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Go away.
Exactly.
If you need help, call 911. I'm not it.
And then she calls James. She calls James because she's scared.
She's freaked out.
She doesn't call 911.
No.
And then she goes to the kitchen and gets a knife. A knife. Dude, I'm having 6 knives, a baseball bat. I'm finding a gun. I don't care. I'm going to have weapons because I'm alone while my boyfriend went to get cigarettes because those were important. And this bitch knocks on my door again. No, I'm not having it. I'm sorry. This one worked me up really bad.
No, it really is just very poignant for where we live and how it could have been any house.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
Totally. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time, which is a huge thing because stranger on stranger crime is, we try to think of that's only in the city. That's some of the things I looked up when I was doing some research on the movie was about, we tend to assume when you're in the country, you're safe. Mm. And, so in stranger on stranger crime is kind of random and out of the ordinary, but it's terrifying. I did read that the movie was inspired by real life events, which were the Manson family murders. And
because of Sharon Tate?
Yep, the Tate murders, yep.
Man.
And then there were a series of break-ins in Brian Bertino's neighborhood when he was a child, and he kind of based it on that. And then some journalists, they said, have noted that there were similarities between the film and, I guess there's the Keddie, Keddie cabin murders in 1981 in Keddie, Connecticut. I haven't looked that up yet. I didn't, we're not really into true crime, you and I. That's
we're trying not to. Yeah, we're not.
But that's kind of what he based it on.
Gotcha.
And the movie has since become a cult favorite.
Yeah.
They said so. And I understand why. It's a very good movie. It's terrifying. Terrifying.
So I have another note here. When James leaves to go get cigarettes, he takes the champagne bottle with him, and he finishes the champagne bottle before he gets into his car. This is the note I had. I said, drinking and driving and littering, because he throws the champagne bottle. I said, irredeemable dick.
I love how you were doing your own commentary through the whole thing. That makes me laugh.
One thing was crazy. Okay, so she opens the door after he leaves and just like, this is like before the knock happens again. And she's just looking around. She doesn't have to unlock the door to open it. She just opens it.
Yeah.
The door, they never locked, like the door was never locked. I'm like...
A stranger knocks on your door at 4 a.m. It was locked then, wasn't it? Because
I don't think so.
Really? It wasn't? I thought it was at that point.
Maybe it was.
And he unlocked it. But I'll have to go back and see.
But either way, home alone
in the middle of the night.
She doesn't lock the door.
And some random stranger had already knocked on your door. And this is where, he's gone, and she actually realizes there's more than one person. There's actually 3.
Yeah, because there's they're banging on windows and doors and stuff at the same time.
She's terrified, and she calls James, and I don't know if you noticed, but he seems so nonchalant. Like, you can't really hear him talking. It's just her side of the conversation, but she's panic stricken, and she's like, no, just please hurry. You need to get home. Just please come home. No, I saw them. He was questioning, is this really happening? Or are you just, overreacting? And then that made me mad. I was like, dude, you were there. You saw the girl at your door. That's not unusual. Just random people walking up to your door.
Even if you don't have, the idea that it's, malicious in some way, they're trying to commit a crime, even if they were just messing with your girlfriend, that should piss you off enough.
Exactly. Someone that you were going to propose to 2 hours, or you did propose to 2 hours earlier, or whatever it was, and now you're just like, she's home alone. I'll get there when I get there. I don't know. I mean, he seemed a little more anxious when he finally got there, but then it just turns into a shit show that's even worse than you could even imagine. Oh my God.
Yeah. But yeah, I was flabbergasted that she didn't lock the door. I said, these people have the survival instincts of a fucking cooked shrimp. So,
yes,
at some point, she tries to use the house phone, but it doesn't work. I'm assuming because the strangers cut the phone line.
I would assume that would be what happened.
So she goes to look for her cell phone, which is, of course, dead. So she goes to plug it in, and that's when she's able to call James, is when it has a little bit of a charge.
Yeah.
But then she leaves it on the charger. But, even before they start banging on the door and stuff, she keeps, investigating the noises that are happening. She goes all around, stop. Stop investigating sounds. Lock yourself in a room with that pretty butcher knife you found, and wait until your idiot, stupid boyfriend gets home, and then you can investigate sounds together. But you still shouldn't. In a survival situation, I'm finding a defensible area and staying there.
This is going to be my deal. She came to the door at 4 a.m. She knocked on the door. They knew she was there. I'm getting my shit, and I'm putting it in the car, and I'm driving away. I mean, he did. He drove away. He went to the store to get cigarettes. I think they could have got away, but no.
That's true.
They stay. And it doesn't go so well.
Well, wait. I just realized something, Becky. They probably... Okay, so the first time they knock on the door, they see that there's 2 people there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they see someone leave.
Mm-hmm.
So when they knock on the door the second time, they're seeing if they're still home.
Uh-huh.
I just made that connection.
Mm-hmm.
Because that connects to what they say later on. We'll get there.
Because the girl that knocked on the door, she did, like, walk away. Like, they showed her leaving.
Yeah.
Like, she went across the field or something, which, again, it's fucking 4 a.m, people.
She just wanders off.
She just wanders off in the middle of nowhere. There's no car that you see. Get the fuck out. Sorry, I wasn't going to swear on my podcast, but this episode got me so worked up. Oh, my. The movie was terrifying.
It's really scary. So, yeah, the record starts skipping.
To the scary music. That song, that...
And that's when James gets home. It's revealed that he's home. And Kristen is immediately like, oh my God, like, you need to... They're messing with me, like, they're banging on the wall, like, I'm scared. He does not take her seriously at first. Like, I know that, you know, he's upset and hurt because she said no to his proposal. Which, keep in mind, it wasn't like, no, we're breaking up, I don't want to marry you. It was just, she wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
Which still hurts. I understand that. And again, I understand emotions are high, etc. But he, like, was not taking her seriously at all at first.
Not at all.
Just thinking that she's overreacting. Like, how could somebody be in the house? Because she started to notice that things were moved.
Yeah, like her phone was gone.
Yeah. And the smoke detector, which she had to take down when the flue was not opened. Dumbasses.
Yeah, house filled with smoke.
It went from the floor to being set nicely on a chair. So she knew that someone was in the house. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the most chilling parts of the movie. She's just standing in the kitchen, like getting a glass of water or something. And she's facing away from the rest of the house. And it's very dark. And one of the strangers, the masked man, steps out of the darkness just so you can barely make out his mask and stuff. I literally had chills running up and down my spine at that. I don't usually, like, home invasions and stuff, those movies, like The Purge, stuff like that, don't usually get to me that much. But
me either.
I don't know if it was the way it was shot or the atmosphere that they had already established or just, like, this movie was so good at doing what it did, and that really freaked me out. Mm-hmm. I have a note. It's all in caps, and it says, oh my fucking God, I hate that, I hate that, I hate that. He just fucking appears in the darkness. Stop. It's like, it was really bad because you didn't know. The worst part was he didn't attack her right away. He was just watching her.
No, it was like cat and a mouse game. Yeah. They were playing with them. And I think that was the most terrifying thing is that they just, you know, if you're going to come out and kill me, you're going to, like, break into my home and steal my shit and kill me. Okay, do it. But the way they were just terrorizing them. They were literally terrorizing them. They took their time to do what they wanted to do to them. It was a game. Took
their time. They enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. It's very sick.
Back to the record player. I have a note here about when they were, like, when things were getting pretty intense and they were in the house and the other person, which we'll get to the other person that was in the house other than the home invasion people. They were playing Merle Haggard song, Mama Tried, which I think to me, it kind of was like, oh, they really are twisted and sick. Because that's the song that they put on the record player. They got the record out and put that on there.
The strangers did?
Yes. And Merle Haggard's song, Mama Tried, is about, you know, my daddy died when I was young and Mama tried to raise me right, but I'm in prison and this and that. And he's like an outlaw. And I was just like, oh yeah, that shows how twisted they really are. And I'll probably link the Merle Haggard song too. Reminds me of my dad. So that's a good one that we'll put on
that's
the Facebook
honestly
page
awesome.
too.
I didn't think about researching the songs.
Yeah.
I will say I kind of left it up to Becky to research the movie more than, like, I did. Because, like I said, this was kind of like, she'd watched it already. So she was the one that recommended it. I kind of wanted to let her just kind of take over it. So I don't know any of this. I'm learning this for the first time with you. So
well, I recognize that song. So that one, and I just, where they placed it in the movie, it was like, oh, they're just twisted. These people are twisted, and kind of gives way to that, you know, kind of like Deliverance kind of feeling where you're in the country, you're the rich people, and you're walking into an area where there's not so many people with money and that kind of, for lack of a better term, which I grew up in a small town, so nobody can get mad at me for this, but like that kind of hick attitude.
Yeah.
You know, they show the pickup truck that the strangers were in.
True.
And just that kind of hick mentality of come into our town and, you know, I was just like, oh boy, here we go.
So James gets home and then he starts to see that, you know, Kristen wasn't making it up. And he's like, he sees the original woman, the one who's asking for Tamara. He sees her just standing there, and he's like, I'm going to go out there and see what she wants. And I'm just like, really? Like, with just yourself? Like, no weapon or anything? He doesn't, they don't have a shotgun at this point. They don't have anything.
Yeah. Because
James says, they want something. And the note that I had is, yeah, nothing good.
Hello?
It is in the middle of the night. Again, there's no one around.
No.
So he realizes he forgot his cell phone in his car. So he's like, oh, I gotta go out to my car and get it. Because they can't find Kristen's at this point. It's gone. Which there is a shot that reveals that it got thrown in the fire.
Yeah.
And, you know, the phone lines inside the house are cut or whatever. Well, he gets out to his car and, like, it's destroyed. He can't start it. Which, side note, I don't know if you noticed this. Everyone in this movie drives a stick.
I didn't notice that.
Which I thought was really interesting. Like, they were all manuals, because he actually tries to start his car by backing it up, which is a trick that you can do when it stalls. You know that. You drove. Well, for those youngins that are listening that don't know, back when you could buy manual cars, you could
pop the clutch and start the car.
You could pop the clutch and you could either roll it backwards or forwards and you could get it to start, which he tries to do, which I was like, oh, that's so smart. Like, you can't do that with automatic cars.
No.
But it didn't work. He decided to run back inside, and when they get back inside, he finds his phone. Mm-hmm. It's in the house, and he didn't bring it in, okay? No. And he's like, how did it get in here? And he's totally upset about it, and it's like, okay, so this whole time you're disbelieving Kristen about things going missing or moving or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's your cell phone that it happens to, and you're like, oh, wow, I guess maybe this is serious.
Really is happening.
Yeah, like, I wanted to strangle
I know, I have right here, I'm like, he was so nonchalant. Like, I couldn't get over how at first he was just like, whatever. I'm like, dude, come on.
So, before he leaves for cigarettes and stuff like that, forgot to mention, he calls his friend named Mike to come and pick him up. He's like, hey, it didn't work out the way I thought it would. I really need you to come and pick me up. I'm going to let Kristen have the car. And, we'll figure it out later. And this is on a voicemail, so he doesn't actually reach Mike.
Yeah.
But he just tells Mike to pick him up in the morning, and, he'll give Kristen the car, and, it'll be fine. So we don't actually hear from Mike at all, and neither do the characters. I don't know if it's because he didn't attempt to call, or if he just showed up, or, whatever. It doesn't matter. The phone lines were down anyways.
Yeah, he couldn't have got through to him.
I think James's cell phone battery was missing when they found it. Either way, it wasn't usable, whatever state they found it in.
Yeah.
And James mentions early in the movie that, like, this house that is, like, their summer home or whatever, it used to be James's family's.
Yeah.
And they would do, like, hunting trips with his dad or whatever.
Yeah.
And he mentions this to Kristen later on in the movie, too, because he's like, well, my dad has a gun here somewhere. He just always hid it, so we just have to find it. Yeah. And they find it, and they find shells, and it's like a pump-action shotgun.
And he doesn't know how to use it. And she's like, wait, I thought you said you went hunting with your dad.
And he's like, oh, yeah, I just lied.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's interesting. So I said, when they got the shotgun out, I said, yes, time to shotgun it up like Ash versus the Evil Dead. Because I'm a big nerd. I was, like, so ready for them to freaking plow through these home invaders, though.
I thought they would do something, yes. I was shocked. But, again, he didn't know how to use a gun. She was terrified, and I don't know if you've ever heard Liv Tyler scream, but holy moly, she is definitely the epitome of a horror scream.
Yeah, it's blood-curdling, for sure. Every person in this movie acted their ass off, but she's definitely a standout. I mean, she is more the main character than James is, I would say. Which I don't know why they really took that route, but really it became Kristen's movie for a second there.
Yeah.
Really kind of had more of a focus on her. You kind of think that, maybe she'll be the final girl, but it doesn't really work out that way. So Mike shows up, and one thing I forgot to mention is at this point they have the shotgun. They're hiding in like one of the back rooms or whatever, and you see the strangers. They change the record to the Mama Tried song, I guess.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Which to me, I was like, that's weird that they're doing that. Like, why are they doing that? Like, it just shows kind of how messed up they are. And one thing I want to mention, too, is this movie does a really good job of really showing that nowhere is safe. Like, multiple times, James is like, get back inside to Kristen. And, Kristen follows him out. But you know that they're in the house already.
Exactly.
And you know that they're outside.
Yeah.
So it's like, nowhere is safe. It doesn't, like, you have these kind of, like, they have these preconceived notions, like, okay, if I'm inside, I'm safe. But, like, the audience knows, and to a degree, Kristen and James know, too, that they're not safe indoors or outdoors, but they grasp at something.
Yeah, they're terrified.
So that they can...
obvious they're terrified.
Yeah,
and
so that they...
Yeah, I think they're trying to keep their sanity.
Exactly.
It has to be a safe place.
So they hide in one of the back rooms, and Mike shows up. He pulls up. He has a stick shift. It's like a Jeep or something. I noticed because he pops the e-brake. I'm like, why does everyone in this movie...
did not notice that.
Why does everyone in this movie drive a manual? I cannot confirm or deny whether or not the strangers drive a manual or not. I wasn't paying that much attention to that one. I don't know if you ever see it.
I don't... that's interesting.
It is a truck, though. It's an old truck.
It is a truck,
so it's definitely possible. But Mike is like, he climbs out of the car, and again, this is James's friend that he called, and he's like bitching immediately about how he has to be picking up James, and like, I have better things to do, and I'm like, wow, he seems like a piece of shit. And as soon as Mike enters the house and he sees like broken glass, and he's creeping through the house, and he's not like, hey, Kristen, James, are you here? Like, he's not calling out or anything.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was strange.
And as he walks through the house, you start to see the male stranger follow him and, like, takes each step when Mike takes a step so he can't hear it. And I said, Mike has the instincts of a piece of wheatgrass on fire.
You would think, though, you would feel someone. I mean, there's been times where I thought someone was watching me and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
I would think I would feel someone there. I don't know. I don't know. Just the presence in your home or the presence of somewhere you're at.
There was something wrong. And Mike was just like, he was just being creepy. He was just creeping through the house. And James ends up shooting him because he thinks that it's one of the invaders.
But he almost instantly realizes the person he killed did not have a mask on.
Yeah. He was like, why didn't he have a mask on? Like,
and Kristen's like, what do you mean he didn't have a mask on? And then he realizes that he just shot and killed his friend.
Yeah. Which, very upsetting.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that the movie does a good job of endearing Mike to the audience or anything like that, because...
No, but I think it's more of the gut-wrenching emotion that both James and Kristen show at the loss of what they've done, what he's done, because she didn't pull the trigger, but what he's done, I mean, he was really, I think that's the first true emotion other than sadness after she, denied him the engagement, that he actually shows. Like, it was pretty heart-wrenching to see his reaction to what he had just done.
I said...
Oh, no.
This is really mean. Okay. I think it's pretty funny. I said, maybe if he'd ever actually been hunting with his dad like he said, he would have better trigger instincts.
You're supposed to know what you're shooting at all times. You don't just guess. Yes, no, that's true. 100%.
I'm sorry.
No, it's true.
So they find, when they go through the house, they find that they had written killer in blood on, one of the windows, which I think is pretty ironic. But it's just another way of them messing with them, right?
Terrorizing them.
And James is like, okay, we don't have bones. Which they never searched Mike for a phone, I don't think. I mean, maybe it just didn't occur to them, but...
Yeah, no, I don't know. They just, like, had their breakdown and then tried to figure out where to go.
Which, I'm not saying that I would have reacted any better to it. I probably wouldn't have wanted... probably would have wanted to avoid the body at all costs.
Yeah, if you shot me in the face, I don't think you want to look for my phone. Maybe.
I mean, you don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm pretty cutthroat at that point. I'm like, well, she's dead. She's not using her phone anymore.
She should have hollered.
She should have
said, "Hey, Sydney! Hey, Sydney, I'm here!"
Why is your house all creepy? So he's like, we have this old radio out in the barn. Maybe we could get it working. And I'm going to go out there. And he takes the gun with him. So he leaves...
He leaves her again.
He leaves her again with no means of defending herself to go and see if he can get the barn radio working.
I'm pretty thankful she said no to the proposal.
Yeah.
She knew something we didn't.
Yeah, and it's that he's clinically brain dead.
Yeah.
And she immediately leaves, like, he tells her to leave, like, stay in the house. She immediately leaves the house and is, like, on the porch, which I cannot blame her for.
No, I wouldn't want to be in the house. I would feel like I was boxed in.
Their friend's dead body is there.
She knows they've been in the house.
She knows they've been in the house.
They may still be in the house.
They may still be in the house. Like, but okay. She changes into, like, normal people clothes at some point. It's when she calls James to come home the first time.
She changes out of the dress.
Yeah.
Yep.
But she doesn't put shoes on, and that really pissed me off. Because it's like, if you were in a potentially, like...
Fight or flight,
like, you need to not be barefoot.
You need to flight with your shoes on, damn it.
Yes! When she goes out to sit on the porch to wait for James to come back from the barn, she still does not have shoes on. And I'm like...
That makes no sense.
Girl, come on. And she sits on the porch, and she starts crying, and she's, like, hiding her face in her knees. And I get so mad. I said, this is a survival situation. Constant vigilance, ho. Why are you just being sad into your knees? Compartmentalize. You can cry later.
Uh-huh.
You can cry later.
Who has time for crying in a situation like that? I mean, yeah, I might be crying, but I'm not putting my head down. I'm not sitting on the porch waiting for my loser man who already pretty much, like, let me down every step of the way. I'm not going to sit on that porch and wait patiently for him to come back. Yeah. When I know there's people in my house, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. For real. Like, and James, of course, he takes forever to come back. She gets worried, and she goes after him. And she goes, make no mistake, she goes looking for James, okay? She doesn't, like, that's what she's doing, okay? When she gets to the barn and doesn't find him, yeah, she tries to use the radio to call for help.
Yeah.
But he's, like, missing, and I'm like, at that point, I thought he was dead.
Oh, I did too. I thought he was done for.
I was like, okay, time to cut your losses.
Get the hell out of there.
Yeah, like,
run
James
through the
dead.
woods, man. I don't know. I'm doing something. I'm not staying there. But they didn't. I don't know.
So, one other note I had, too, was, like, what time was it? Like, I didn't know how much time was passing during this movie. So, it starts off, we get the confirmation that it's 4 o'clock in the morning when she first knocks on the door. And then James had called Mike way earlier than that when they first gotten home to come and pick him up. So, and when James gets to the house, he's, like, leaving a voicemail for James, telling him that he's here.
You said when James gets to the house, he's leaving a voicemail for James. When Mike gets to the house.
When Mike gets to the house.
I was confused for a minute. I was like, huh.
Thank you for...
You're welcome. No, it's good.
When Mike gets to the house, he leaves a voicemail for James. He's like, hey, I'm here, asshole. Like, you know, I have better things to do than come and pick you up or whatever. And he's like, oh, but I got here early. It's still dark.
Yeah.
Like, what time is it at this point?
I know. How long did this go on? That's my... I was really like, Because even... I mean, and it was summer. It was not winter.
Mm-mm.
It was summer. So by 7 a.m., the sun is up, right? 6:30?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where they're at, but I would assume. But yeah, it went on for a long time.
So she gets to the barn. She tries to use the radio. She gets caught by one of the strangers, a masked woman this time. And she runs out, and I can't remember, is it before or after that she falls down in the ditch and, like, hurts her leg?
Oh, I don't know.
Either way, she gets injured and has to,
Yeah.
like, drag herself around for a minute.
Yeah.
And that made me mad, too, because I'm like, well, maybe if you'd put shoes on.
True.
Come on. Because one of my biggest fears, honestly, is getting caught, like, naked, and I have to, like, escape
Naked?
my house. And not just naked, but, like, without shoes on or whatever. Like, it's just, like, I don't want, like, it just freaks me out to think about that. Like, I'm going to be prepared. Like, I got socks and shoes at the ready.
Yep.
So she goes back in the house, and it, like, the mask guy, he, like, appears out of the darkness and knocks her out.
Yep.
And drags her off, and she passes out. And then...
So it's at this time that you don't know where James is.
Yeah.
We assumed he was dead.
Yeah.
And then she gets knocked out. And, yeah. Oh.
Yeah. She wakes up, and she's tied to a chair.
Next to James.
They put her back in her dress.
Yep. So she'd feel pretty. They're twisted.
As soon as I saw that they put her back in her dress, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's such an extra step to go to. Like, not only is it, like, just kind of in general, it's kind of sick to do that, but, like, they undressed her.
Yeah.
And, like, so it's just, like, such a violation every step of the way. Like, it wasn't, like, I don't want people to get misconstrued. There wasn't anything sexual about what the strangers were doing.
No.
But I just mean that, like, them changing her clothes like that, and I don't even know if she realized, like, maybe she was too far gone to realize, but that detail as an audience member was
shocking.
Truly shocking. Yeah. Awful. Totally awful.
Yeah, we talk about, people that are victims of crime, like home invasions and things like that you find it hard to feel safe after that because of that entire invasion of privacy. Yeah. Your sanctity, your safety that you have thought was your comfort is gone. And so to have them take her out of her regular clothes and put her in the dress that she literally said, I feel pretty in, it's just a very shocking moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Kristen wakes up, and the strangers are surrounding her and James, and they take their masks off, which immediately, like, you can tell the look on Kristen's face, like, that's when she knows that they're going to die.
Yeah. And they have the knife that Kristen had picked up much earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
They pick it up.
And she asks, why are you doing this to us? And they say...
The one girl looks at her and says, because you were home.
Because you were home.
That line, I told Sydney, you have to watch this movie and you will know exactly what I'm saying, why it disturbed me so much. Because you were home.
Yeah.
And it was so nonchalant, just, there was no rhyme or reason. They were in the wrong place. At the wrong time.
Yeah, just because they were home.
Yeah.
And one thing that I mentioned to Becky right before we started this episode was they initially knock on the door to see if they're home, and Kristen and James answer, so that they know that's confirmation at that point.
Yeah.
Home. But then he leaves to go get cigarettes, right? And they knock again.
Exactly.
So they're seeing if they left for good, or if there's still somebody home to fuck with.
Yeah.
If they had both left, like if Kristen had left with James and they had left for good.
Yeah. Nothing would have happened.
That's
or they'd have moved on to the next house or.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And didn't they make a comment to the strangers, like, that it'll be easier next time?
When they got in the truck after, because they left the house, it was daylight when they killed them.
Yeah.
And they left the house and they stopped literally to talk to these two little boys that, were in the first part of it. They talked to the two little boys and take a pamphlet, and the boys are like, are you a sinner? And the one girl's like, well, sometimes.
Sometimes.
And then they got back in the truck, and as they were driving away, you hear him say, it'll be easier the next time. Yep. So don't answer the door at 4 a.m.
Don't answer the door, like, ever. Like, who does house calls anymore? Like, unless you're legitimately expecting somebody, don't answer the door. I don't care if it's the police.
I am sure when people knock on my door that there is always, like, a look of horror on my face. Like, I am like, what the fuck is happening right now? Because people don't come over unless I know they're coming over.
True, yeah.
People don't stop here. Like, if the mail lady stops to bring something and it's unexpected, I'm like, who's at my door? Literally, Jacob came home. That's my oldest son the other night. And my boyfriend had just left. And somehow the door handle was messing up because it was so cold and it wouldn't open from the outside.
So he was just jiggling it?
And so he was jiggling it, and then he knocked lightly on the door. And Keegan and Lauren, that's my younger son and his girlfriend, they were standing here with me, and we all just stared at each other like, who the fuck's going to answer the door? I mean, how pathetic was that?
Who's dying first?
And then we look out, I'm like, who is it? And Keegan's like, I don't know, but he's tall. I have a glass door. I can see, but there's a shade. So I literally, like, snuck over and looked, and it's my son. It's my son. But we weren't going to answer the door. So, yeah, I'm good.
Listen, just know in the movie, you would not die first.
I would not die first.
You might die later, but just not first.
I might. But definitely a reason to always lock the doors. And, yeah.
That actually reminds me of, this is one of my favorite memories with my mom. So we were home alone. I don't remember what, my dad and brothers were doing, but we were watching a scary movie. And we hear this, like, it's a weird noise. It's not quite a knock. It's something on the screen door, okay? Mm-hmm. And, like, I look out the bay window that's right next to our front door, and I can't see anything. But the banging sound keeps happening. And me and my mom look at each other and we're like, what the fuck is happening? We try to call my dad. He doesn't answer. He's, like, infamously bad at answering his cell phone. He was probably dead. And we're like, okay, we gotta handle this ourselves. Because we're like, stop. Whoever it is, like, stop. We're gonna call the police.
Talking to people, yelling at them because you think someone's out there. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So my mom gets her gun. Because, we live in northern Michigan. Every person owns a gun. So my mom gets her gun. And she's like, I'm going to need you to step away from the door. Like, if you don't leave, I'm going to open the door and shoot you. And meanwhile, this banging is still happening. Like, this scratching is still happening. It's this weird, really scary sound. Finally, I'm like, I can't take this anymore. I fling the door open. And it's our cat. He had climbed up the screen on the screen door and was trying to be let in. And he kept, like, banging his body against the screen door.
Well, I'm glad your mom knew how to use a gun and didn't just shoot the cat.
No, she has good trigger discipline. She knew what she was doing. But that story still cracks me up because we were so scared. And then it was just a stupid cat.
Oh, shoot.
But, listen, we were ready to pack them full of bullets.
There you go.
Which is how you should react when it's
exactly
dark and people are banging on your door.
Not leave your girlfriend alone.
Being
Twice.
creepy.
3 times. However many times he left. Anyway.
Yeah, he, did not do a good job of protecting her at all.
No.
Which, to be fair, it's nobody's responsibility to protect someone else.
But I'm not gonna... You as my friend, I'm not going to leave you alone when we just had a weird encounter like that. I'm not.
Yeah, that'd be messed up.
I'm going to say, how about we both leave?
Yeah.
Let's get out of here. This is too much. I don't care if you leave the lights on. We'll come back when it's daylight. I'm out.
Yeah.
You just, common courtesy towards any human being is you don't leave them alone when something weird has occurred like that.
Especially when, James first got home, Kristen was shitting her pants. She was
terrified.
Freaking out. And, he was just like, sure? Are you sure, though? Gaslighting piece of shit. They didn't deserve what happened to them, though. It was so terrible. Nobody deserves anything like that to happen to them, and there's no justice at all.
But it's an awesome movie. If you want to get scared, even though we've told you everything that happens in it, it's well worth the watch.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend it. 10 out of 10. I enjoyed it a lot. I've watched it twice now. And
I would definitely watch it again.
Yeah.
Because again, home invasion movies aren't really my forte. Yeah, they scare me, but I don't know. I'm just picky about them, I guess. I'm really glad I watched this movie. It was really good. So I think that's all we have to say about The Strangers. What are we going to talk about next week?
I don't know. We were just discussing that earlier. It's going to be a surprise again. We've got a few things that we've talked about. You had a book. Oh, yeah. We talked about
Bird Box.
The Bird Box, yep.
That is, just to shout out Dawn again, that's one of my favorite books of all time, too. I love that book. It scared the shit out of me the first time I read it. And as a matter of fact, I love that book so much. It's one of the only books that I, immediately restarted as soon as I finished it.
Really?
I was like, I need more. I need it again. I need it all. It's so freaky. And they have a Netflix movie. So,
which I've already watched.
Yeah.
But I got the audiobook, so I'm going to start listening to that probably tonight. And
dude, I might try to get the audiobook because there are some parts of that book that are so freaky, and just picturing someone narrate it and you listening to it is freaking me out. Genuinely. Okay. I literally know what happens. Like I said, I've read it back to front 17 times. So, but yeah, I think we'll talk about Bird Box next. We're not trying to play favorites with Dawn here, but it just kind of worked out with The Strangers. Yeah,
I did ask. I did a post on my Facebook to have people tell me what scared them, and yeah, this is one that she put on there as well as The Strangers. And like I said, I had already told Sydney I wanted to do The Strangers prior to Dawn posting that, but she's an awesome fan and we're enjoying her feedback and we'd like to hear more. So
yeah, we want to hear from everybody, and we'll definitely get to other people's suggestions as well, so don't feel left out. We have so many topics that we want to talk about, and well, there's only so much time, so we'll get to them eventually.
And this one did run a little long again. We're at almost an hour
again. Oh man.
Yes.
Okay,
but this is a great movie. The movie itself was only an hour and a half, so there you go.
Yes. Horror movies don't need to be 2.5 hours long. An hour and a half. This movie did not overstay its welcome, unlike The Strangers.
So they overstayed way too long.
So that's all from us. Let us know what you think of our awesome intro now that we have it.
Yes. Shout out to Keegan, my youngest son. He is our editor, and he did put my little voice stint over the music,
which was provided by Roz Olin.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, everything is so cool. He did the art too, so we're just so thankful for all the support that we've been receiving. And we will see you guys in the next one. My name is Sydney Rebecca.
And I'm Rebecca Snow.
And we're the Becks.